I heard the title that she stated, but I kind of changed it. But what we're going to discuss in regards to the Black COVID Index, it's inside of the presentation. So just chill and relax. Okay, collective relevance, curating Black art and history through independent practices by Kymberly Keeton. Black art genius. I have always wanted my art to service my people, to reflect us, to relate to us, to stimulate us, to make us aware of our potential. We have to create an art for liberation and for life. Elizabeth Catlett. So I do want to say each slide has something to do with my life, okay? So briefly, who is Elizabeth Catlett? She is one of the greatest African-American sculpture artists in the United States. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay. She is no longer with us. But what I would say, and how I would like to open this up, because it just feels good, in my early 30s, I had the opportunity to travel to Cuernavaca, Morelos, Mexico. And I got to sit in her studio for a week and chill out with the great Elizabeth Catlett. When you have time, check out her artwork, learn about who she is. I remember sitting in her and she said to me, kYmberly, I want you to get on a train and I want you to ride. I want you to ride. And what a life it has been. So today's presentation, some of the artwork that you will see, I will share with you at the end in regards to who some of these people are. But how we're going to go about this is learn a little bit about me. We have a lecture overview, the history of the Black Art Library, art as practice, documentation, art library deco, manifesto, library stacks, examples, the repository, art demographics, and the future. So, I love fashion. Okay, I love fashion. So if my glasses go in and out, these are my new Ray-Bans. If you like, they have the new UV, whatever, and all that kind of stuff. But yeah. I curate Black art. Get to know Kymberly. I began creating collage art installations at the age of 8 years old. Art in its varied forms has been a tool for me to understand culture, history, and advocacy. Through my journey as an African-American bibliophile and art collector, I have always wanted to own an art gallery. During my graduate student practicum is when I met the future, art, library, deco. And what I want to say about, the age of 8, I used to make these like massive installations in my mother's home, okay? She's no longer with us. She passed in 2015. But my mom used to walk into my room and I don't even know if she got upset or what, but I know I would have collages everywhere. And that is one thing that I will always appreciate about my mother and her legacy in raising my sister, me, and my brother. We're all artists. My brother's an architect. My sister's a chef. And I'm a librarian and the writer. And it's so befitting that I got to write her obituary. Like you never know what's going to happen in life. Like I'm a writer and I got to write my mom's obituary. Wow. It was a great feat. But the one thing that I can say is that that's where my foundation began in the arts, is with my mother. My mother used to take us to museums. I just remember going to just always being in a museum and learning about art because she was an artist. But my grandmother wasn't able to foster that because she had 6 children, African-American family in the South, raising 6 kids. And one of them is blatantly a fashion designer. How do you make that happen in the 40s and the 50s? Okay, so it couldn't happen for my mom, but my mom made it sure that it happened for us. And I'm so grateful for that today. So It's not really going to be a lecture, but I'm a scholar, so I had to use that word, okay? But through this journey today, you will be introduced to Art Library Deco, an online African-American virtual art library and repository. In like manner, you will learn about the journey of how the vision came into reality in real time and where the library is headed. Art Library Deco, sweet as the moment when art went pop. So, how did I get into even thinking about the Black COVID-19 index in 2020? How did I get there? So I want to introduce you to some of my sheroes, my mentors, who are no longer with us, but their spirit still lives on and through me. An image that you're looking at right now is the African American Gregory School in Houston, Texas, which is open and you can visit today. I actually had the opportunity to watch it being rebuilt, but I want to show you like the older version of what it looked like in the 1920s, 1930s. And it was one of my first experiences, I would say, before I got into librarianship, where I had the opportunity to go in and touch African American archives and just be exposed to a Black library. So in getting into librarianship and looking at my life, I always, I would say, have tried to figure out how I was going to survive as an artist. That's what it's about in the United States. How do you survive as an artist? So, all these people have paved the way for me to get an education. So that's the only way. That's the only way. It's the only way, people. Tell your children that. It's the only way to make it in America is through your education. Now, you can hustle, and I did that, but that's a hard life. And I like nice clothes. So, it's like you got to make a choice here. So, Black art librarians and influencers. Regina M. Anderson was one of the first African-American art librarians to be hired by the New York Public Library, as well as known as the mother of the Harlem Renaissance. I don't know if you've seen, there's a famous image on the top of her roof where there is Chester Himes. Let me see who else is in that picture. Langston Hughes. It's just like a group of Black men. I should have put it in here. But it's just an iconic image where you look at a librarian and they look at the population and they see that there's a need, and she decided to fulfill that need and create I would say a museum in a sense in her home for Black artists of all kinds from all walks of life. Zora Neale Hurston walked in there. Langston Hughes walked in there. She had a great relationship with W.E. Du Bois. She was also a playwright. Vivian Ayers. If you have no idea who this is, that is a shame because she's still alive. She's 100. I think she's 101 now. This is Felicia Rashad's mother and Debbie Allen's mother. She was the first African-American librarian to be hired at Rice University in Texas, in Houston, one of our little Ivy Leagues, and collected art, still collects art, has her own institute as well. And just a fashionista, an advocate for change, club woman, just a great person to read about when it comes to the arts and Black people walking into this world. Mamie A. Clayton out of California started the first African-American museum library, which just recently closed the past 2 years due to funding. Then when you go to Black art collectors and curators, Camille Billups, a great African-American artist and collector. I had the opportunity to meet her, spend time with her. Miriam Matthews, another great African-American librarian who has supported the arts from California, public librarian, advocate for change, as well as collector. Black bibliophiles and directors, Bella DaCosta Green, the first African-American librarian and bibliophile to J.P. Morgan Chase. And, she built his entire collection. Jean Blackwell, Houston, the first African-American librarian at the Black Schomburg, as well as the first bibliophile to Arturo Schomburg and his collection. And when you look at all of these women, they were rebels for change. They were radical, fashionable. They were club women, a part of sororities, collectors of art, traveled, and believed in their community, and believed in legacy, and believed in the Black archive. So, you know, what greatness I have in my own life to be able to read about these women and follow them. So instead of me sitting here telling you about my story, I'm gonna let you hear about my story. I am the co-chair of the Women's Steering Committee of the Women's Section for the Society of American Archivists. I was asked to tell my story, being that I believe in these United States as far as librarianship and archives. I'm one of a few entrepreneurs in our profession, and people wanted to know how I've been doing this. So I'm gonna tell you. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I forgot to turn the sound on. Don't know if that's gonna happen. I don't know if that'll happen. We'll see. And I'm just gonna fast forward this to Could y'all hear that? Could you hear the video? You couldn't hear the video? Okay. There's probably, I don't want to stop the presentation if you can't hear it, because then we'll probably have another difficulty and we don't want that to happen. So I will just have to tell you what happened. Okay, so how do I get back to this part from moving from here? Okay, so how did I get to libraries, art libraries? I gave you a little bit about my childhood, first degree, University of Houston, creative writer, trying to figure out how I'm going to get where I want to be as an artist in life. One day I was at home in my studio and I just saw the word librarian flash across my screen. It was like Jesus, me, and my books. And I'm serious, it flashed across the screen. So I was like, okay. So I looked around and I was like, wow, I do have a lot of books. What does that mean? So then I started thinking about, well, I do research too. Like, I'm a good researcher. Like, let me look at this. So I started looking at what a librarian does. And then I just saw this whole other world, because I wanted to be an anthropologist. I was trying to go into the footsteps of Zora Neale Hurston, but my name is Kymberly Maisha Dion Keeton. Two different people. And I had to realize that. So my path, I went to go meet the cultural anthropologist in Philadelphia. I'll never forget that meeting. And we just didn't gel. We didn't gel. It wasn't there. So, okay, librarianship. So I decide to apply to Texas Women's University. I get in. First semester, one professor didn't like my writing. I'll never forget this. She gave me a seat in my class. And I think I was like on a trial basis or something for that semester or whatever. So I couldn't get a C. So I remember calling her and asking her, could we meet online? We meet online. She didn't turn on her screen, people. She sat and watched me cry. She watched me cry as I was asking her to give me direction. But I started to see that it had nothing to do with my writing. I had a degree in English creative writing, so it couldn't be my writing. But lo and behold, they told me I had to leave. So, I fought the good fight. I went all the way to the president's office. That didn't help. I had to leave. Crushed my ego. It crushed my ego. It crushed my ego. But I'm a fighter. I ended up getting an award for some reason. I'm like, okay, so I'm out of school. I just got kicked out, but I get an award. So I get an award. I go to this conference, and lo and behold, I'm sitting next to the dean of the library school at the University of North Texas, who's about to give me the award, and I didn't know. Life just works out. So he's looking at me, and I don't know why Dr. Totten said this to me, but he said, I want you at my school. I was like, I want to be in school. That's what I was thinking in my mind. But nobody knew what was going on. Only one person in that room knew what was going on. That was a part of the Black Caucus of the American Library Association. And I will forever be grateful to him. So I get the award, and Dr. Totten whispered in my ear, he's like, apply to UNT. And so it's like, and okay, so I do it. I got in like within a week, fully funded, whole 2 years, get a job. The rest is history. Seriously, it is. Okay, fast forward. I'm in my master's, and I'm trying to figure out, I remember Dr. Anna Cleveland saying to me, you need to know what type of librarian you are, because you don't want people to place you somewhere, Kim, because you're special. I've been told that all my life. You're special too. I'm with rock stars right now, okay? The best thing since sliced bread. I do believe that. So, I'm like, okay, well, I like the arts, Dr. Cleveland. Okay, so let's get you into that. Let's see what we can do. Forever grateful to Dr. Cleveland. She's also my co-chair today. See how life works. So moving forth, I'm at the stage where I have to get this whole master's thesis together, practicum, all of this. So I decide to do my practicum at the Museum of Fine Arts Houston and the Houston Museum of African American History and Culture. So I go into the Museum of Fine Arts Houston. Now, I've been in Houston for 10 years at that time. I'm in the state capital now, Austin. But I was in Houston at that time. And I remember walking into the museum, and I just, I saw an art library, and I was like, oh my God, like my mom used to take me to museums all the time. Like, why did no one ever tell me that there was an art library in a museum? Like, what? Where have I been? Because I read books. It was probably the best time for me to see that. So, okay, I see a library in this white institution. I go across the street to the Black institution where I'm also doing my practicum, and they don't have one. Why is that? This is Kymberly Maisha Dion Keeton, better known as Kim Is So Fly, trying to figure out, like, what is going on, people? I'm supposed to be in one of the most diverse cities in the United States. What's going on? So I started doing research, and I started to see that there are a plethora of art libraries and white institutions, museums in these United States, but not Black museums. So what you gonna do about that, Kymberly Keeton? What are you gonna do about that? So I'm telling you, these words, I'm a writer. They just come in, come out, come in. Art library deco just pops up one day. It's like, okay, what is that? Okay, so lo and behold, I go to WordPress and I just create a page, and then I start creating these tabs. And then it started making sense. I was like, okay, this is 2013, people. We're in 2021. And I'm already ahead of the game, not even knowing I'm ahead of the game. Do you know where you are today, right now? We're in a new age in 3 years already. 2013, already ahead, didn't even know it. So I gave you the spiel. Now, speed up 2012, 2015, enrolled, University of North Texas, blase, blase. 2016, 2020. Okay, now I didn't say this part. My first job as a librarian, I got a job as soon as I got out of school. It's just like destiny. In Missouri, I'm from Texas, people. Born and raised, Fort Worth. Lived all over Texas, but first job, Jefferson City, Missouri, capital of Missouri. 60,000 people. Population of African Americans, like 2%. No Hispanic people, no Asian people. But it's a Black institution right downtown called Lincoln University, Missouri. What a time it was. Those 3 years of my life. I needed that experience. I needed that experience to be able to have this conversation with you today. I needed still to have the fundamentals of what being a librarian was, though really I'm an entrepreneur. I don't even think I really had that conversation with God either. I'm gonna be honest. I told somebody that last night. You got to get confirmation, because I don't even know if I really got confirmation to go to Missouri, but I'm grateful I got to go because it was one of the most defining times in my life as it pertains to racism. I haven't been sheltered, but I never experienced it for myself, for kYmberly, and I got to experience it every day. So I left. I had to leave. I resigned. I started in 2014. I resigned in 2017, came back to Texas and took a position as the African American Community Archivist and Librarian for the city of Austin, as well as the Arts Commissioner of District 1, which I am still today. But I resigned from that job in July 2021. Microaggressions, racism. I'm the only Black person in the institution. I come and I get all these awards and, put the place on the map, and I wasn't valued. So who values you, Kim? How much are you worth? No one can pay me what I'm worth. Nobody can pay me what I'm worth in the work that I do. So what are you going to do? You have options. My God aunt told me I had options. That's why I went in and I told them I had to go. And I prayed and I asked, if you just give me the opportunity, walking in. But from 2013 to where we are today, through all of this, I've been building, 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 and building. So here we are, the manifesto. We are more than just a website. The methodology used to develop the virtual art library is in conjunction with galleries, libraries, archives, museums, and refers to cultural institutions with a mission to provide access to knowledge. GLAMs collect and maintain cultural heritage materials in the public interest and preserve and make accessible primary sources valuable for researchers. As an open source collaboration, the Black galleries, libraries, archives, and museums BGLAM practice emerged that defines Art Library Deco as an independent GLAM institution. Here to the left of the screen is just a little, I would say, like menu, just showing you what is happening with Art Library Deco when you go onto the library. And remember, we're more than just a website. So what do our demographics look like today? From 2013 to 2021, our subscribers consist of, and art patrons consist of researchers, collectors, scholars, artists, organizations, institutions, and art gurus. So When you're looking at the bottom of the screen and you see some of these tabs, these are our most popular tabs as it pertains to, I would say, pages, as it pertains to Art Library Deco and what individuals frequent the most. Another thing that I believe is fundamentally important as far as information literacy, as far as just, encouraging other people to read and really validating your own legacy as a librarian, is creating something that lasts, that people can use. So I created the Hip Hop Lib Guide. And if any of you are librarians who work with students who are interested in hip hop or the arts, this is a great resource for you to use with your students. Of course, it's free. It's updated now like every 6 months. But here is a plethora of information that anyone can use to learn about hip hop information literacy and just information literacy, period. I won't go through every page. I just want you to see just like a little bit of this. And it took me probably like about 2 years to get it where I wanted it to be, so I don't have to come on here and continuously update it. So, okay, I've created this art library and, we have to have exhibits and, events and, community engagement virtually. So when the pandemic happened, I remember looking at a list of institutions in the state of Texas that were collecting stories, and I think it was like only 2. And so I was like, well, you know what? I need to do something about this in regards to the creative arts. So created the Black COVID-19 Index. We put it out in March 2020. We ended the submissions in December of last year. And I'm still amazed at what we've collected as far as the journal that is going to come out next year. But this was an amazing experience. This presentation will be given to you, so you can click on the links and read the article that was written about Art Library Deco and the Black COVID-19 Index in the Austin Chronicle. And a lot of people have asked me, well, what have you collected? And I would like to say, I want you to get ready for that, because it's the telling of the pandemic and people's emotions and thoughts and happenings and images and artwork. And we're still going through a pandemic right now. But I felt like I needed to cut it off at some point, so we could make sure that we did have content, good content. So feel free if you have any questions as it pertains to the Black COVID-19 Index. I am here to answer those today. Now, as it relates to collaborating in the community from a virtual perspective, Art Library Deco was chosen by the Internet Archive to be a part of their world, and has afforded us the opportunity to be able to have space to web archive. And I'm going to take you into the Texas Black Artists Collective, in which we have archived 33 artists from Texas who were born and raised in Texas, which is a requirement to be a part of this collective. And one of the cool things about this is tomorrow I will be hosting a Wikipedia event with Wikipedia as it pertains to archiving some of these artists tomorrow. And I think this is a very good program. Some of these artists I didn't even know about. So it also introduced me to new individuals. And I'll show you how one of these look if you've never seen. Well, actually, let me go to another one. And so let me see. Okay. So as I clicked on this, in the background, what it's going to let me know is that someone came here to look at this person's site per archive it. And I get to see how many pages they went through in regards to all of the artist pages and what they're really looking at and what I need to web archive as it pertains to particular artists or the artists that we already have archived. And Ryan Runcie is an artist in Austin. But if you're interested in looking at this, feel free. Okay, so our repository. As I was thinking about creating Art Library Deco, I felt like that, it was important that we created a repository as well. So I will take you into the repository in which I created it using Omeka. And I am using the free version right now. I decided to use the paid version for my PhD and my work that I'm going to be doing with an archive. But as far as the repository is concerned, I just felt like it needed to be a part of a library. It just makes sense to me. And it's another channel as it pertains to research. Whereas when you're coming to a library, you may particularly be looking for books or a particular location. And as far as a repository, there are many things that you can find as it pertains to art. And one of the things that I would like to say about Pamela Council, and one of the I think one of the good things about being in this position as an art librarian, curator, and the chief library curator of Art Library Deco is that I get to reach out to, pretty much anybody and just ask them, can, we use your artwork? Can I archive you? Can I exhibit your work? And I reached out to Pamela Council and she went to Art Library Deco. And like within 2 hours, she emailed me back and was like, yes, I want my work to be archived in your repository. So, sometimes it just takes reaching out to people and just asking. So I will take you into our collections. I just finished archiving Miss Hertha Arburn Webb Glenn and her oral history collection. She was a centenarian. She recently passed. And she was a jewel in Austin, Texas. But these are some of the things that has taken place since 2013. And I'm quite sure if I have a special collections librarian here with me today or an archivist here with me today, I know you understand the toil it takes to do this type of work. And I commend you. These are some of the exhibits. And this is just all, wanting to share African-American art with others. It's pretty much why I'm doing all of this. But I hope to have at least, we'll be up to like 10 pages by, I would say, the ending of 2024. And you're always welcome to contribute, your own art to our repository. And of course, it's more in depth But I will let you take the time to go out and look at that on your own. So the virtual art archives inside Art Library Deco were established in May 2013. We have exhibited shows, interviewed artists, and art papers, and so much more. We have art papers and so much more. Our comprehensive guide is available 365 days a year, and in-house exhibitions, publications, etc. So the future, where I want to take Art Library Deco, my goal is to open up a physical location in Fort Worth, Texas. The collection that I have today in my storage right now in Houston, I have close to 3,500 African-American books that I've collected. What I have in my office right now is close to 1,000 that I brought from Missouri. So it's going to be a non-lending library that has what? Art. And some of the people that you've seen, some of the artwork that you've seen here, Elizabeth Catlett, yes, she gave me a piece. She mailed it to me. Yes, she did. I'm an Elizabeth. Yes. Ramir Bearden, he's in my collection. Some great artists. Nathaniel Donay, great artist. And I've been collecting for a long, long time. Always remember the additions, people, the additions. The future, Art Library Deco. I think about that every day. We're a for-profit library. Of course, you can get a free subscription anytime. To be an art patron, it's $36 a year. Yes, I have people who are art patrons. It keeps the doors open. It costs to be able to create. It's not free to do anything in America. We go to a library and get a book, but you got to have a card to do that. So it's always some type of contract going on. Hopefully you're taking these nuggets with you. I'm giving them to you. But the future, Art Library Deco, we received 3 grants last year. The pandemic has been a blessing, honestly, in the grand scheme of, I would say, small and rural libraries. I've gotten a lot of traction since the pandemic has happened because what? People are at home. Everybody's online. But how long have I been doing this? 2013. And people just walked into the 21st century. They just walked in. We're librarians. We have archivists here. They just walked in. Please, if you disagree, please put it in the chat. They just walked into the 21st century in 2020. Everybody can use a cell phone in 2019. But could you work Zoom? Did you know how to open up a folder in Google? Like all these questions have come to me as an independent librarian. So if you're interested in going the route that I am, there is a world out there for you. There are people who need independent librarians as well. We're credentials, okay? We're credentials. So you can get your coins. You need your coins. We still got to have a retirement too. The future, Art Library Deco. My goal and my dream, as I stated, in the beginning, was to have an art gallery. But I'm a librarian. How do you do that? You mix the two. This space right here that you see on the screen to the right, that's my visualization of how big I want it to be. I think big. You have to think big. And I think big. So I'm going to invite you now. 2 years. Give me 2 years. 2 years. I want you to get on a plane. Hopefully, you won't have to wear a mask. And if you do, it's all good. Come to Fort Worth. We're going to have a cafe for you. Coffee waiting on you. Little delicatesses as well. I've collected over probably like about 300 coffee cups. I'm getting ready to pack my place now because I got to go back to be able to open up the spot. I'm in Austin, Texas, the state capital. I've done my work here. You got to get confirmation before you can move to the next process. So the future, art library deco in the physical. The virtual will always be here, but I'm kind of going backwards, yet I'm already headed forwards, if that makes sense to you. I want to be able to hire Black people. What's wrong with that? Nothing. I want to hire my people. What's wrong with that? Nothing. That's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing, to be a Black woman and be able to hire others and make a way for them. What am I talking about? All of this legacy, because that's what we should be about as librarians. What did the Black COVID-19 Index teach me? Legacy. More about legacy. More about archiving. What is an archive? You can take my survey as a PhD student if you like, and if you want to answer that question. How's that going to help me? The PhD, notoriety, being able to get grants for a full profit organization, because I don't want anyone to ever tell me I got to walk out my own doors with the 501(c)(3). They say people tell you that they won't do that, but this is capitalism. I don't really know what it is today, honestly. But anyway, the future, art library deco. I want it to be in a vintage home, 3 stories if possible, but if not 2. I've traveled back and forth to Fort Worth to look at the areas of where I want it to be. Still got to get confirmation on that. Do I have the funds? I got a little money saved up. The future, art library deco. Being able to create fellowships, being able to, create partnerships with institutions in Texas. Be able to, have a funnel where I'm developing more African-American art librarians. It's a very hard world to get into when it comes to the arts in these United States, but I'm one of the lucky ones that I've had a village, and it started with my mother teaching me about museums. Then all of these other great women and men coming into my life, telling me that I could be what I wanted to be. But I had to discover that for myself, resign from 2 jobs as a librarian to get right back to where I started. So, in all of that, Black art has always existed. It just hasn't been looked for in the right places, but I've shown you a place today. And I hope you utilize it. We're not a website. We're a library. Thank you.